Welcome to Routing for Success, the show where we interview today's top logistics professionals, giving them a platform to share their stories and best practices. Today, we are talking with Amy Byers. Amy, along with her husband David, are the owners of Slicker Trucking, one of the largest independent service providers in the FedEx Ground network. At present, Slicker Trucking operates over 105 pickup and delivery routes, plus another 30 Linehaul trucks. They have a total of 208 employees. In this episode, Amy recounts their humble beginnings. David started out as a package handler before getting his first route in 2008. She talks about their philosophy of treating employees with respect and the ways in which they support their employee base, including offering health insurance, 401k, and mental health resources, not to mention several live in-person events where their entire company can get together under one roof. Slicker Trucking is all about their people, and you can check them out on their website, slickertrucking.net. Without further delay, I bring you Amy Byers. All right, we're here with Amy Byers, Slicker Trucking. Amy, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, we are here to talk about your FedEx business, which is sizable, and you have a pretty interesting story to tell. But before we get into any of that, tell us a little bit about yourself. What were you doing professionally before you'd ever heard of FedEx Ground contracting?
So I met David in 2007, and I was working as a marketing director for a couple different companies and landed at the Ohio Lottery in their vendor Inchalot. So I had been actually managing and designing games and working on a whole marketing campaign for the Ohio Lottery and how they market games in business. Very regulatory, government regulated, very strict, lots of audits and compliance, even within marketing. So that was kind of that's what I was doing when I met David. And before that, 20 plus years in marketing. So that was kind of my background. And I didn't come on board until he launched Linehaul and we got pretty sizable. So that was in 2017. So 10 years later, fast forward, I jumped on board.
And tell us a little bit about David's story, because as I understand, he was the initial entrant into the FedEx business. Tell us how he got started.
Yeah, so David's the AO of both our Linehaul and P&D divisions. We have 4 contracts on the P&D side and 20 unassigned contracts on the Linehaul side, but we run 30 plus trucks on Linehaul, so we have a ton of spares. But David's story, he started at Ohio State with an ag degree. So he was going for agriculture and was working at the Columbus hub as a package handler, loader, and switcher. Kind of went through that, progressed very quickly, just paying his way through college. So entrepreneurial even at that age. And then he moved to Medina to work for one of his friends that owned routes in Medina, Ohio. So he moved here as a driver. Back then, 1 year driving experience was the only criteria you needed to have to become a contractor, if you can imagine that. So David didn't have a penny to his name. We took a loan out for our first truck in March of 2008. So 2008, in March, he got his first route and was one guy, one man, one van, he likes to say. And from there, we acquired the other area from the guy he was working for and just kind of started growing, organically. The area in Medina, David used to run with 1 or 2 guys. Now it's 9 or 10 today in that same zip code. So you can imagine just the ground, the overlap, everything. We've kind of been through it all. And then expanding into different areas, the Cambridge, Mansfield, Twinsburg, Youngstown areas. So yeah, so that's kind of Dave's story. I say the closest he comes to using his degree is when we deliver Omaha steaks or something like that. Not too close to the agriculture degree these days.
I feel like that's how most people are with their college degrees. Very few actually work in the field that they got the degree.
Right.
That's interesting. So So David started as a package handler, and then he was employed as a driver for another contractor, and then he got his first route, and then grew from there. And Amy, give us a snapshot of your business today. You had mentioned that you have 30 line haul trucks, many of which are spares. You have 20 runs, a mix of assigned and unassigned. And then on the P&D side of the business, you have 4 contracts. How many total P&D routes are you typically running on a day?
So obviously with, and any contractor is going to know this, we do have a lot of rural contracts. So we only have Sundays in one, which is our Cleveland market. And we're running probably 105 to 110 routes daily. But that obviously fluctuates between Sundays and Wednesdays and Thursdays. But that would probably give us an average. And then on the line haul side, we have about 38 dispatches a day as we grow in, just because we do city work in the daytime, and then we also have line haul at night. So it's a pretty sizable. We're about 208 employees now, 25 of which are at the management level.
208 employees,
Yep.
25 managers.
Yeah.
Wow, that is a sizable and scaled FedEx operation.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
So let's go back chronologically. So again, package handler, David started as a package handler, became a driver, got an opportunity to actually move into a truck of his own as a contractor. What did the growth look like? I mean, were you taking out SBA loans and bank loans to purchase the rights to other territories, or were you applying for new territories as they became available from FedEx? Tell us a little bit about how you grew over the years.
So we grew, as I mentioned, when Dave started, he was a college student prior, just months prior to even driving at FedEx. And then just a year in, so we didn't have the capital. And back then, it was very difficult to work with banks. This whole contractor model at FedEx wasn't really a thing. And because there was no contract with FedEx that said, hey, it's yours and this is how much money you're going to get, right? If you weren't servicing your contract, just much like today, they could take it from you. So that risk versus reward, banks really weren't hip to kind of what that looked like. Today, a lot of banks get it. They understand. They're like, oh, we want to see your settlement. So they even know the terms to ask for to get financing these days. But it was just personal finance. We took a personal loan, I think for 20 grand, bought a truck, and off it went. So that was the investment. From there, a lot of our growth was organic. We did buy some routes in the early 2010, 2013s, which was owner financed from a guy who was getting out. He was moving. And from there, we had just grown organically. In 2017, we did buy a sizable line haul operation. And then from there, onesie twosies, but really the growth has been organic for the most part. It's been us applying, and investing. Instead of investing the money in growth, we invest the money in success and in our people and in our technology and in our trucks, and then establish those relationships with FedEx to grow from there.
So how do you find those opportunities? I go on buildagroundbiz.com, and anyone can go on there and you can see what open opportunities that FedEx has. Do you literally just go on Build a Ground Biz and keep an eye out for opportunities that might suit your kind of model or your geographies that you want to work from?
No, so FedEx does actually email you when opportunities come up in your district. So we keep an eye on those. We're also covering a lot of the areas when people do fail. So not necessarily contingency work, but, in other terminals, but we do help our neighbors. When the terminal asks, we try to help as much as we can. If, as long as we're, again, home base is always first and foremost. So we always make sure that we're covered at home before we can go lend a hand. It's kind of the put your mask on first before you help somebody else on the airplane spiel, right? So we try to keep that in mind, but we do help out. So there's a lot of awareness that we've been trying to help or take over areas before they fail. So to work on transition plans with people. So we try to stay in tune with other contractors. And a lot of times it's either a handoff or an assumption. It's rarely, this area has completely failed and we're applying for it.
Okay, so I feel like there's an important lesson there. I hear from contractors all the time who talk about, in some stations, there's really just a culture where the contractors don't want to help each other at all.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sound like that's your approach. You have the opposite approach where you actually want to keep in touch and be friendly with your neighbors and be there to support them. But it also sounds like there's actually a benefit to that, which is if you are in a position where you're helping someone out all the time because they're just not doing well, they're not able to hire, whatever the reason is, they're not able to get it done. You're there helping them out. And that actually gives you a foot in the door, so to speak, that if that opportunity becomes available, if they want to just transfer the business, they're probably going to do it to you.
Yeah.
You've already been servicing it.
So
right?
we have a culture in our company of being kind of the yes man and the go-to guy. And, I'm on some Facebook pages and we hear contractors say one way or another, what their opinions of that may be. But it is really a culture of helping. FedEx is our customer, whether or not, contractors want to remember that or contractors, feel that sometimes they are a partner in such, but they are in fact our customer. And just like when you go to dinner or you go to Applebee's or wherever you go to the grocery store, it's how can I help you? Right? That's the customer service that we're supposed to provide. And I think that gets lost in the message sometimes that we are partners more so like you owe me and I owe you. They're our customer. And for most of us, they're our only customer. So, to lose that customer because you're not treating them appropriately or you're not going above and beyond, it's not going to pan out for you. So we instill that in our drivers, no stop left behind, call if you need help. We have a team lead structure. We check on, the DSW throughout the day so that we can prevent failing from happening at a late time in the day, right? So we try to stay ahead of it. And on our line haul side, we want to be the go-to guys. So we set up financial incentives and structures that make our guys want to help. It's financially advantageous for them to say, yes, I will move those trailers. Yes, I will do that extra work. And then by putting spares on, if somebody calls off, we cover our own loads. But, in the case where FedEx has someone else call off, we can pick up that work. So, establishing ourselves as the go-to guy and the yes guy, if you will, with our only customer has set us up for success for sure.
Amy, I don't know if you've listened to episode number 8 of this podcast. It was with David Delgado. He's in Indiana.
Okay.
Cut from the same cloth from that respect, at least. The philosophy of being a yes man, a yes woman, saying yes to any opportunity that comes your way. And that's a good strategy for the long run.
Yeah.
It sounds like. So, okay, so tell us a little bit more about how your business is structured today. You said you have, typical day P&D, you're putting out about 105 routes. Obviously, that varies, but that would be the average. You have 208 employees, 25 of which are managers. So tell us let's drill into that structure a little bit more. What does the reporting structure look like from the driver all the way on up to yourself?
So the drivers report locally to regional terminal managers, operations managers. I'm sure everybody calls them BCs, but those are, kind of the immediate strategy. In between the drivers and the BCs, we have team leads, which are driving peer leaders. These are the people that look to the right, look to the left, and they kind of help each other. They're making bulk strategies in the morning. They're kind of staying on the pulse of the employee. So we're catching personal and professional frustrations early. We have a lot of resources from a benefit standpoint to help people with personal struggles, but we know you bring that to work. So they're kind of the eyes and the ears on the dock when the managers are managing. We have local managers at each terminal that handle DRO, complaints, disputes, bulk, and then based on a hierarchy of if they're the senior manager in that terminal or lower, they would also jump in a route if needed, right? They would for coverage. Then from there, we have senior managers. We have 3 senior managers that are kind of regional. One of them is in a terminal almost every single day. So between David and the regional managers are the senior managers. They're kind of overseeing the management team, making sure they have all the tools they need. And then we have HR and my crew, which is more admin, benefits, and then David, who's the AO. So he'll be at meetings, popping in the terminals, making sure everything's good. I also do terminal visits. But obviously, running a business today, the way FedEx requires it, is definitely more of a corporation. It requires the structure and the dedication to compliance, to growth, to cost savings, to this new efficiency calculator that they have. And you're just managed to many more things than just dispatching, right? Or truck maintenance. So that's kind of how our hierarchy goes. So it's between the leads, managers, senior managers, and then David and I. So there's 4 thick layers of management. So we always say that there's somebody that you can come to if you need something. And we run our business like a family-owned operation. So, I do all the hiring. I do the interviewing myself because I want to know people. I want to know what their personal goals are and professional goals are. So I always say we're big enough to offer cool stuff like benefits and all the goodies, 401k, time off, but we're small enough that anybody can pick up the phone and call me personally if they're not getting an answer from one of the other managers.
Yeah, and Amy, something that stood out to me about your business is, and you just hinted to it a little bit, I feel like Slicker Trucking is unique in many ways. Not only do you offer benefits, and that's one of the positives of having scale. You have a website, people can go and check out the Slicker Trucking website. It has more information on your company. You actually have an annual event where not only do you host employees, but you have other people come as well. It's almost like a party.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So we have, we do a summer party for all the employees, and then we do a Christmas party, a post-peak party for all the employees and the summer parties for families, kids, everybody. And then after peak, we kind of do a date night, and you can bring your friend, a guest, whatever, and it's kind of more of an adult party. But once a year, we do our annual State of the State, which is coming up May 7th for us. But we basically do a conference. If you think about any conference or trade show you've ever been to, it's just an internal trade show. So we invite all of our vendors. So we have, our bankers, our 401k advisors, our medical benefits advisors, our PEO, which is a huge asset to our company and a huge nod to them for the growth that we've achieved and the scale. Truck loan advisors are coming. We have Truckers Against Trafficking, which is one of the nonprofit organizations we support. 30 Hearts is coming. They're a nonprofit that we support, as well as a massage and chiropractic company. I know it sounds crazy, but they are talking about how to recover from kind of a heavy day of lifting to prevent injury and recoup at night and prepare yourself for the next day. So we work with all these different vendors. So we do a vendor fair first for like an hour where they can go and, just like any other vendor fair or trade show, they have handouts and information, but they can ask one-on-one questions with the vendors that need us the most, right? We have EAP benefits through Alliance, which offers coaching and family discounts, but also some mental health and crisis, support. So, you have a kid that you don't have care for. They have daycare guidance counselors they'll call, and they can help you find a place to safely put your kid while you're at work. And same thing with elderly care. If you have an older parent that needs care, these are all the things that, are stresses in your everyday. You have questions about your medical benefits, a claim. We have our internal staff that have uniforms. So you can order uniforms and get the latest and greatest sizes and try them on in the bathroom and come out and let us know what size you are. So we do all that in the beginning, kind of a vendor fair. And then we all go into the main banquet room and we do an overview of kind of the year of 2022, what that looked like for Slicker Trucking. We're super transparent about revenue and costs, so that they understand kind of where the money goes. 10 plus million in payroll. And they're like, what? But it's good to them to see that a lot of the money and a lot of the expenses goes to supporting them, whether it's in truck, fuel, benefits, payroll, right? All of these things, but it gives them a glimpse at a big level of kind of what we do behind the scenes to make things work. We talk about the why a lot, so it really does allow us to connect with why it's important, why safety is important, why, other than being illegal, why you should wear your safety belt and why it's so important. So we talk about the DOT number on the side of the truck. We talk about the connection between the customer service and our growth and our success, and the why between when you code a box wrong, what that really means all the way up, what it means to David and I, what it means to your local management team. So we feel if we can connect a little bit better with our employees. And it's also kind of really good to have everybody in one room, which is hard when you're running a 7x24 operation. But it's really cool. We got great feedback from it the past years. So this one's going to be super exciting as well.
Amy, what do you think the head count is going to be at this event coming up next month?
I think we have a couple people that have already been on vacation, obviously, but I think we're at like 190 attending plus vendors.
Wow. So all of that is amazing. And when you tell that to me, I don't know if I've ever spoken with another contractor who gets that involved with their employee base. Now, obviously, you had talked about, you kind of always need to be selling. People always talk about FedEx contracting. There's no sales aspect involved because the packages just come in. Well, there is. You need to be selling to the employees all the time as to why they should continue working with your company. But what you're talking about here, this is just next level in terms of engagement. And that's got to take, it takes a certain amount of inspiration from the ownership, from you and David. Amy, where does that come from? I mean, did you just wake up one morning running the FedEx business and say, you know what, we really need to take things to the next level? Or was it more of a natural progression? How did you get to the point to where you're putting on events that were 200 plus people strong with all of this transparency and support and everything else you talked about?
So it hasn't always been easy. David and I, at the core, we feel are very generous. Our company is our family. So we've always done like little parties and things like that as we've progressed through the years. We did have a transition period, in the last maybe 3-4 years where we did separate from a partner. It was a little tough. And we really did lean on our faith. So our Christianity, we don't ask anybody to, they don't have to be Christians. They don't have to be religious in any way, or Muslim or whatever. But it's just what our guarantee is to our employees of kind of who's guiding us and who's, creating that path for us. I get super emotional, sorry. But it really is something that, it's something that's in our core to connect. We're not investors. We're not business people of any sort. Dave was a driver, so we've been in all the shoes. We've started out with nothing. So I know what it's like to have kids that are hungry and not be able to pay your bills. So we just want to create an environment that protects people and sets them up for success. So years ago, when Dave was in college, it was like, how's the fastest, any 23-year-old guy, what's the fastest way I can get to $1 million? And when we switched our faith to, instead of just delivering boxes and that's what we do, we say we're a people development company that just happens to deliver boxes, right? The boxes are the means to the end. But if you put your focus on your people, your business will grow. And you hit the nail on the head when you said, we don't invest in marketing. So our customer service is only to FedEx, but we don't have to advertise, to get customers to come to FedEx. They do that for us. So if you invest that kind of money, which, any standard business is going to, if you invest that into your people, and not only just the money, but the efforts and the care and be super genuine about it, you'll see the growth in the teamwork. And I'm not saying it's perfect. Like I'm being serious. When we separated, we had a partnership, we separated. There was a moment where I remember transferring like $8,000 or $10,000 of our personal money, which was at the time probably all the savings that we had, And we transferred that to payroll because we weren't sure what tomorrow was going to look like, but those guys worked and they needed a paycheck. And, we had gotten creative and we kind of, we went to our pastor and we kind of really did try to figure out what life was going to look like. And we dug our heels in and we made some changes and we branched out a new logo and we said, this is it. Our faith isn't private. So we're just gonna take a risk. And a lot of people were like, I can't believe you have a cross in your logo. That's so risky. And other people, it's really nice when we go to conferences, they're like, hey man, we appreciate the fact that you're out there. But it is really at our core important. The people are important. I write a personal card and a letter to everyone that has a baby and we send a little onesie. It's important. And I get super excited when I get a VOE, that somebody's buying a house and not just because I got them on the hook for another 5 or 10 years, but, but I do. It's exciting to see, we have tenure up to 10 years. We just celebrated 2 people just at the January party that have 10 years with us. But some of these people started out, college graduates and now they're married, having kids, buying houses. And it's inspiring to me what we get back from them, that they can create a career and a family and raise a family with what we've done here. And we can't do it without them. So, I'm not getting in a truck and delivering. I don't even know if my background would allow me to with my driving record. but honestly, safety is first and foremost, but it is really our people. They're great. They're great.
You really care about your people. That's evident. That's great. So, Amy, and that's a good segue. You had just talked about splitting up with a business partner and how you had to deposit, I think it was $8,000 from your personal account into the company account to make payroll. What year was that roughly?
2017.
2017. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and the reason I say that's a good segue is because we've spoken about the current state of your business, some things that you're doing today. I'd like to talk a little bit more about your path. How did you get to this point to where you have this scaled, awesome organization and you're doing all these amazing things? I want to talk about the road that it took for you to get here. So again, started out small with a single van. You jumped on a lot of opportunities to help others and you picked up territories. But I want to talk about some of the challenges along the way. Whenever people look at a successful entrepreneur like yourself, and I know FedEx Ground contracting, it is what it is, but it is entrepreneurship from my perspective. You're taking risk and owning a business, and that's entrepreneurship. But people see kind of the current state, and it looks really sexy, and it's like, oh, they're so successful. But people often don't see what it takes to get there. So let's talk about some of the challenges along the way. And let's start with that one. Tell us about what was the situation with the business partner splitting up?
So it was, so we try not to go back right in the past and talk about things. The vision was just different between David and this other guy. So we had to make a move. We had to, we had just recently moved into wanting to do Linehaul. And it was a very busy time. Dave was, at the terminal every single day for a long time, out of a truck still, but it was new. The growth becoming this big was new. And that's when, again, I said, I stepped down from the lottery and Intralot to come work for David full time. It was going to take a big investment and it was a huge risk. So we went through the struggle with the partner, realized the finances weren't what we thought we were. Had to make a course correction. We took a really high interest loan to get kind of through the next few months, to figure out was this the right path? We questioned a lot, leaned on our faith to figure out, what we needed to do. And honestly, I think the easy thing to do would have been maybe just to fold up and say, this is too much. But at the time we had maybe 15 or 16 employees, after the split growing to maybe 21. And those people had families, right? So for me just to be like, and it was before a ton of compliance. and the things that FedEx has implemented, which I'm not saying are easy by any means, but it does cost a lot of money to run a good business today. And our path was definitely different. David was doing a ton with the business, but he needed me to take that piece of the compliance and the audit and the hiring and making sure employees were paid right so that we could pass audits and get creative with how we could make today look like it was yesterday. And a lot of it is management, right? The old adage is it costs money to make money, right? You got to spend it to make it, and that couldn't be more true. It's a little piece off the top, a little percentage of a bigger pie is definitely where we are, right? So we invest in our trucks. We definitely are a cash-based business when it comes to purchasing. We try not to finance anything outside of trucks, which has really gotten us an edge, not having those looming fees and rates. I think it was my dad may have told David before he passed, if you can't pay cash, kid, you can't afford it. And we really have kind of taken that to heart. So when scanners came out, we bought as many as we could. We paid cash. OmniTrax, Vetter, all the things. Everything that FedEx has kind of thrown at us, we've kind of, taken that risk uncomfortably, whether it's a loan from ourselves or money out of the business, and said, okay, here's the cash. We're going to dive in and we're going to buy this technology. And it's always worked out for us. We're taking the risk to take on, 5 new trucks, to take on a different area. Even though the trucks seem, that truck payment seems super hefty, to take that risk and to see that, if you put the effort in and you do the things the right way, you stay compliant, you do all those things, that it will come back. But it is a shaky road. I mean, even with fuel just last year, it was a shaky road. We were not nearly at the margins that we needed to be at, but we just kind of dug our heels in and said, okay, this is what this looks like today. And FedEx has always kind of come back, but we've had those ups and downs with our journey, I would say.
Yeah, 2022 by all accounts was a tough year for everyone. Oh, yeah. Tell us a little bit more about 2022. You had just spoken about your aversion to debt. You do finance trucks, but that's pretty much it. You'll do anything you can to avoid debt, aside from truck financing. So I'm sure that helped you out during the tough times of 2022.
It did.
What are some other things, Amy, that enabled your organization to get through that tough period?
So in 2022, it was really tough with fuel. They say the bigger you are, the more you can absorb, but the bigger you are, even with line haul, fuel was upwards of, I think we hit $7.07 in the eastern territories of the line haul, which is just crazy. I mean, it was a 25-30% increase across the board, and we were not earning any more. We weren't driving any more miles, and I'm preaching to the choir because every contractor out there was feeling it. We definitely had some bigger margins because we don't finance, so that definitely helped us. But it didn't help that at that very same time, FedEx was in rolling out the Qual Cert program to get everybody on the P&D side trained formally. It cost a couple $1,000s to get those guys trained and certified. And I'm looking at 180 people. I got 6 months to get certified, right? So it was before peak, and then we had the following year. So it was a lot to dig in. Luckily, volume was down a little bit at that point. So we had the ability to take people, out of routes and get them trained. But that was a huge hurdle to overcome. And I had said for a long time, I don't know how, some of the smaller contractors were doing it with the fuel prices going up, and did it make sense to have a certified trainer on staff, and could you even afford that with the way that fuel was going? So I definitely felt that in my heart, I could put myself back to where I was, 100 employees before and say, oh my gosh, what would we be doing right now? So I get it. There's different challenges at every level of being a contractor. And ours were definitely multiplied with fuel and multiplied with this training program. But with having more resources and management, we were able to kind of move some pieces around and achieve what we needed to achieve. Whereas, maybe the smaller contractors didn't have the huge impact in fuel that we did. And they didn't have nearly as many people to train, but the people that needed to be trained needed to be en route, right? They were a little bit more lean than we were. So every contractor has their own, and it's not one is better than the other. I look to a successful contractor that has 10 routes equal to me. I might have a little bit more experience with benefits and things like that. But they're doing what they're doing to become successful, and they're out there. And I have the same respect for somebody that has 100 routes that just has 10. And COVID hit us all differently, but in the same impact. And the economy this year and last definitely hit us all the same, in our own respective ways.
Yeah. So Amy, so started in 2008, and then you had mentioned that, there was the kind of business partner breakup period was in 2017. But
Yeah.
your business was still relatively, at least relative to where you are today, it was still relatively small at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I think you had said you're up to 21 or 22 employees. So
yeah.
It sounds like the bulk of your growth was really within the last 6 years.
Yes.
2017 to 2023.
Definitely.
What are some other moments in your path that were pivotal to where you are today?
So in 2018, we were called down. I think it was when Contingency kind of just started. And you'll hear that term thrown around. Back then it was, hey, do you have anybody extra that can help? Right. And it was, a ridiculous amount of money they paid to get it done. And, it's a little bit different today. But we had just jumped on it. We're like, yeah, we have extra staff, management, everybody. We went down, and there was a day, I'll never forget it. It was, it was in May of the following year. Dave had called me and said, I may have hired 17 people. Don't get mad. And and a contractor had locked up his trucks and kind of told FedEx that he was done and that was it. And all these people are standing around, and they were just like, who do I work for? They were ready to work. And they needed to work, paycheck to paycheck kind of folks, not just, I came to work for you, and now you're not here. Who do I work for? So really a scary moment for them and a scary moment for us. And Dave had just happened to go down to Cambridge to check on the contingency team. And he said he didn't know what pulled him to go down there that day. But he went down there, and those people needed a home. So that was that was definitely a pivotal moment for us. We have a really strong team down there, good-hearted people that want to do the right thing. And you go through. I mean, I'm going through the same hurdles of finding good people. But I always say I can teach anybody to drive a truck. I can't teach you to be a good person, to be a careful person. So we ended up with a good group of people down there that day. And now I think we're 44 employees. So we just kind of, kept on growing organically down there. Again, that go-to, the yes guy, making sure, and not just saying yes, because you can say yes and do a really terrible job. But you got to say yes and hold that new growth opportunity or that new service area to the same standards that you hold your whole business to. So the honesty, the integrity, the commitment to people, the coding, safety, right? You can't just treat it like it's a freebie garbage route, and it doesn't hit your service because it's contingency. You gotta run your business in every moment with those same criteria. So that was definitely a pivotal moment. And then, we had earned Entrepreneur of the Year a couple times in the past few years. And it opens doors for you. You get to meet with people. They think about you. You're front and center. So it does, open some doors and open some opportunities for you with FedEx. So Linehaul grew substantially. We went from 8, I think, to 15 fairly quickly, and then got some exemptions to go a little bit bigger.
So one of the themes of our conversation so far has been that obviously you care a ton about your people, and that's just evident in everything that you're saying. One of the challenges that people experience when they're trying to grow a business is that you can't be everywhere at once.
Yeah.
If you could, then you'd be able to engage with every driver every day and really make sure that that culture is in place. But you can't do that. You can't be everywhere at once.
No.
So Amy, tell us about what are some of the strategies that you've used, that you and David have used to kind of replicate yourselves really in your management team, because they are in between you and the drivers on a day-to-day basis. And you need to make sure that they have the same attitude, that they're really espousing the same virtues that both of you are. What are some things that you do with your managers to make sure that they're on it every day?
So we are beyond blessed to have the management team that we do. They absolutely bleed this company and bleed the culture. But they also know that we care for them and their families like our own. So outside of, the company stuff, they do have a very tight connection with us. And we explain very deeply the why to them, so that it's not just because I said so, right? When they give an answer to the employees, it's not, well, it just has to be this way. They really do take the time to explain. And we could not do this without them. Absolutely not. Each manager has been handpicked, trained, brought alongside of another manager to really put forth our culture first, and then the job duties second. And then everything kind of falls in line. But it really does come down to that management structure. And we do quarterly meetings here at our office, and we constantly are in communication. But our senior managers, and then our GM and David and I, we kind of have that, that overview that we're kind of always holding someone else accountable, and kind of diving in and saying like, hey, how are you? And, it's that high and that care that really does make the difference. And we stay open in communication all the time with, any little things that those team leads report or the managers report, whether it's a struggling employee or, somebody that needs a loan, or somebody needs that their car fixed, or, they need to call that EAP because they're struggling with a teenager at home and it's causing them stress at work. It is just that culture, man. It starts with the culture first. The job duties will fall in line. The job duties are a means to an end, right? We got to do those things. But you don't have to be a good person. You don't have to care. So we do a lot more with coaching and compassion training than I would even say anything else. Even with the CDL drivers, I tell you, I don't need to teach you how to run a a tractor. You've driven forever. You got more experience behind the wheel than I do. So I don't want to teach you how to be a driver. I'm going to teach you how FedEx expects us to drive, and I'm going to teach you the rules kind of that we follow at Slicker. But these are the things that you can expect from us as a company, and as a people. So I think, again, it just really circles back to that culture. And I say it all the time. I cannot imagine finding close to 200 people. And you get your outliers, there's always those guys. I'm not going to say we have 200 perfect employees. But I cannot tell you how blessed I am to have the majority of our employees really just be good people. Good people.
Amy, there's a lot of people who listen to this podcast who are newer in the business, and some who maybe aren't even in the business yet, but they're planning to become a contractor. What's a word of advice that you would give to people who are very early on in their journey as a FedEx contractor?
From a business standpoint, don't fight the compliance and the audits. Really kind of lean into them. Even all the way to Schedule L. I know it sounds crazy, that new schedule. There's some things that are broken with it, but for the most part, it can make sense. And I know I'm going to get crucified for saying that, but lean into it. Don't fight it. anything, reach out to other contractors, reach out to the positive, align yourself with people that are positive and not negative. There is so much negativity out there in the contractor world. You will get sucked in and you will hate your job. And I just say the moment you come to work every day, you have to love it. You have to love your people. You have to love what you're doing. Even when it's a hours and compliance audit, you don't love that, but you love why you're here. So, get behind it, learn as much as you can. And remember that there's people, right? Don't be, I know there's investors out there, but the investors do have people on the ground. Make sure your people are caring about your people. But reach out to the positive people that are want to be here. There's a lot of people in this network that want to be here and that are very successful. And there are some that just aren't. And you just gotta find your way. That's all.
Last question, Amy. You've come a long way. I think by any measure, you are now one of the largest and most successful contractors in the network currently. Where do you go from here? What are you looking forward to?
Honestly, again, I talk about people. So we're just looking to, continue to grow scalably and to provide our employees with more opportunities. So whether that's drivers or senior drivers now that want to become leads or managers, or people in these new territories that don't have an opportunity to work for a company like ours and work alongside of really amazing people. That's just really our path. And if it comes in the form of, a new contract or a bigger contract or bigger opportunities or different opportunities, that's kind of what we're open to. So it really is just about, being the recipient of what others, positivity is. And that's really where we are. That's what fills me up. I mean, we all come to work and we do that. You gotta pay your bills. So, for me to say it's all sunshine and rainbows and unicorns and I don't take a paycheck is not true. But we do take care of our people, but it really does. It makes it worth it to come to work. Just to have conversations. And you're right. It is hard to have a conversation with 200 people in a day. But we do stay connected. It's a lot of work, and I guess I'll sleep when I'm dead. But we do take the time to connect with everybody, and I do. I think one thing is I would also recommend to any contractor that's struggling is to focus on the good. So much so we focus on that 90-10. I would say in our company it's 98-2. Right? 98% of your energy goes to the 2% of people that are causing you the most turmoil. But don't forget that there are 98% of your company that want to be here and want to do good. So Dave always says you got to change the people or change the people. So you're either gonna be a good leader and change those people to see how you want them to be, and want them to be to their other teammates, or you're gonna have to change them out, right? Change the people and hire some people, that want to be on the team that you're building. And that's the dirty part and the ugly part of business, right? Is that sometimes you do have to, kind of cut the bad apples, but it is take your time, learn your people, and see if you can raise them up.
Amy, is there anything else that you'd like to talk about before we sign off?
I think that's it. It's been fun.
I'm glad you had fun. This is a ton of fun for me. I really appreciate you coming on. I know that you are super busy. You just mentioned that you'll probably just get your sleep when you're dead. I know you've got a lot to do. So I appreciate you taking some time to talk with us, Amy. And thanks again.
You got it.
Keep in touch. Talk soon.
Thanks so much.
Routing for Success is brought to you by AP Equipment Financing. In today's competitive market, it is essential to acquire the right trucks at a fair price and finance them in a way that makes sense for your business. Leveraging their extensive network of truck and van suppliers, the experts at AP Equipment Financing will help you locate the best deals on step vans, cutaways, panel vans, and more. Deliver them straight to your facility and finance them with low monthly installment options. Click the link in the description or visit apfinancing.com routingforsuccess.com for more information. Routing for Success is an independent production of AP Equipment Financing and is in no way affiliated with or endorsed by FedEx Corporation, FedEx Ground, Amazon, or any other logistics company discussed herein. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Routing for Success.